Gemini is an air sign, and it's mutable, changeable, and it's ruled by Mercury, so it's mercurial. It's hard to think of any image more fluid and changeable than Gemini, and they're like that. They change more quickly than the other signs. Their opinions, their preferences, their behaviors, their way of being can change really quickly and really frequently. And so we're examining the process of Gemini, going through that general statement. And we have the two aspects of Gemini, the first 15 degrees called Discovery by Rudyard, and the second 15, Exteriorization. So this sense of discovery is actually discovering their thoughts and feelings about what's going on, and then exteriorizing that, making some effort to test that out, eventually leading to a sense of working out what is right, what is different, what is wrong, what is theirs and what is more objective. So we begin this process with their sense of freshness. Everything's new to Gemini. That's a lovely part about them. They see every single part of life as a new experience. And this moves them into a sense of having an appetite for life. They're excited, enthusiastic about everything, really. And this kind of moves further into a sense of inquiry, like, how does that work? What's that all about? What happens if I do this? This sense of inquiry is what takes him into the world. And then we have the kind of exteriorization principle, beginning with participation. I'm going to get involved in this and see what occurs. And from that participation, there's this process of clearing mind, clearing emotions, just getting it all out. That's the thing. All of this experimentation has an effect, and the effect is to clear them, so that their sense of the sixth mystery of Gemini, the expression called evaluation, is where we come to. They kind of get a real sense of what's going on in life according to their take on it. So let's look at those 6 expressions in depth now. We start with freshness, and the first degree of Gemini is the glass-bottomed boat, which gives the facility of looking deep into the sea, and therefore we're talking about examination of the unconscious realms. And what we're looking for is more abundance. We're looking for more. Gemini's always on the lookout for more. And they are actually quite materialistic, I've found. They like things. They see them rather more as toys, perhaps, than equipment. If somebody else was doing it, it'd be more for a purpose, but Gemini likes to play with things, So they want abundance, and they look for that with a boat, the glass bottom. And they find it in Gemini too, in Santa Claus, furtively delivering presents. And this is the archetype that we're trained to believe in during our childhood period, the archetype of kindness and abundance and whatever you want, my darling, whatever you want, that sense that life can be thoroughly abundant. And a lot of us might do well to learn that lesson from Gemini. They do believe that it's there for them, in contrast to some other signs. And in the third degree of Gemini, the Garden of the Tuileries. The Tuileries was like the Palace of Versailles, like the kings of France used to live in the Tuileries. And so this is how to handle that abundance. And you handle it by developing an aristocracy of being. The aristocrats, they take care of the land, and they turn fields into gardens in a very special way, and they do that with everything, their houses and so on. They really make the best of their experiences on Earth. So that's 3. Gemini 4 is the holiday in the mistletoe. So the holly and the mistletoe, they are very deeply ingrained in our culture as representative of what's around at Christmas time, or specifically the winter solstice, so that we can bring nature indoors. It's a very pagan thing to do. These are the roots of paganism, understanding the beauty, of course, of nature, the way in which we kind of include nature in our beings. This is a pagan mystery, never forgotten by the pagans, but we need to be reminded of it because we've lost our roots. And Gemini 4 is about that, reminding the earthy quality, actually being in touch with that which is not dying off in the winter, you know. So it's kind of a roots thing going on there. And in the Radical magazine in Gemini 5, also about a sense of roots, in that radical means at the root, doesn't it? And Radical magazine is looking at the root of the problem and discussing issues which are not mainstream. And so we have the facility here of progressing by understanding that the marginal opinions represent the truth of the future. Things change by coming in from the margins. They don't change in the middle. The middle is what roots and anchors the past in place, but it gets nudged out by what's at the edges. And so the Radical magazine is this part of Gemini where they're a little bit edgy. They like to live on the edge. They've got different opinions from other people, and they like that. Now, the second expression of Gemini is appetite, and we begin with Gemini 6, which is drilling for oil. And this represents a degree of appetite which is more zealous. You know, it's a big deal to drill for oil. You don't know what you're going to get, but if you get it, then you're going to be very rich indeed. And that over-the-topness, that over-the-top wealth is well present in Gemini. They can go well over the top. They're not moderate always. In contrast to that, in Gemini 7, we have the well, which is like drilling for water. And water is generally there a lot more frequently than oil. And water is actually much more valuable than oil, really. Oil can't keep you alive, but water, if you don't have it, you die. So that natural abundance is affirmed there, and we want to develop a trust in life because of that. So even though we've got this appetite for what might happen, there's also this trust for what must happen. There must be water. And Gemini 8 is, in the industrial strike, a sense of claiming that we have a right to this abundance and this certainty of life, you know, and we're going to get a bit itchy if we don't. We're going to strike against injustice if someone tries to stop us from having the freedoms that we really deserve. There's that, like, I'm going to do what I want to do about Gemini. They don't let their freedoms go. They claim them by their behavior, by their speech. They're very audacious in their social manner quite often. Now, that leads to the understanding in Gemini 9 that if you're going to be outrageous, then you need to be masterful. You need to learn how to shoot your arrows really, really accurately. The quiver full of arrows. So they're sharp. You know, they make their points directly. They're pertinent. You know, they know what they're saying, and their points strike home. They're not usually off target really with their observations. You know, and they'd make it light-hearted, but nevertheless it would strike the bullseye. And Gemini 10, you have the aeroplane image, the aeroplane falling, and that's considered a terribly negative image by some, but Another way of looking at that is that when you've developed this level of mastery, you can fly. You can actually take charge of an aeroplane that's falling and rescue it. So you'll have a situation where, because of whatever, perhaps they've said something too intrusive, or perhaps somebody else has done something a bit embarrassing, the Gemini will somehow step in and rescue a situation by saying the right word, by being light-hearted, by making a joke of it. They'll very often stop a plane from crashing, in other words, a social situation. The third expression of Gemini is inquiry. And the first degree of that, the 11th of Gemini, is the new path of realism and experience. So, new beginnings, trying new things out. That's what Gemini does. And if they can't do that, in Gemini 12, they think that they're doing that. The Topsy, saucily asserting herself, is unable to claim real freedom. But it doesn't matter to her, because she can work it out in the mind. And the freedom of Gemini to wander around in the realm of thought and new opinion and belief and a different way of looking at things and making light-hearted that which otherwise would be too serious to bear. This is a facility, and that relates to Gemini 12. In Gemini 13, we have that level of inventiveness taken to a higher level of inspiration, where the great musician is playing his piano and finding new ways of experiencing the expression of that feeling and inspiring other people with that newness, inquiring into the possibilities of where we can take this musicality. And the 14th degree of Gemini is the telepathic communication. When you really, really inquire and you try and understand what another person means, what they're about, if you approach somebody or some communication with this attitude, look, I'm really, really interested to find out what that means, then some facility of mind arises where you can understand it. And you can read people and you can understand what they're saying really well, as if by telepathy, and perhaps by telepathy. And in Gemini 15, we have the validation that you've done that well when the two Dutch kids are chatting to each other. Dutch, in the context of America, that's a foreign language, two foreign language children speaking to each other. We're talking about being understood and understanding another person at an exceptional level, so that you can just check out that what you think and what you feel, that works for the other person too. That's their sense of what's going on. And I think Gemini has to do that because some of their opinions are just off the wall, and they like to share them, don't they? They do talk a lot about their point of view, Gemini, rather, I would say, because of the Mercury, and that's partly just to check out that they're not crazy. You know, they have some validation that somebody else is at least as crazy as they are, or bizarre, to say, you know, the softer word. Now we move into the second half of Gemini with exteriorization, and the first the first expression associated with that is participation, and the mystery of participation. And one way of getting people to participate with you is emotional persuasion. Gemini 16, the suffragists haranguing the people, like, you know, I want you to think this, I feel this, you feel, you know, passionate persuasion. And yet in Gemini 17, the two heads of, the head of mentality dissolved, the head of health dissolved into the head of mentality, like, in other words, head. Intelligence, rational thought, examination of logic, you know, and then persuading people by rational argument. And interestingly, Gemini is actually very good at both of those, the passionate persuasion and the rational argument. They can actually do both. And this is the twin aspect of Gemini, this bothness. They actually have a strong emotional intelligence as well as a rational intelligence. So in Gemini 18, the two Chinese men talking Chinese, this is quite a lot to do with solitude. Just Chinese is even rarer than Dutch. You don't get two Chinese men talking Chinese in your experience very often. And it's to do with that solitary experience of self-reflection, turning within and just talking to yourself in a way, in your own very bizarre language. This isn't anything anybody else can understand. When you talk to yourself, you've got a whole pile of references that nobody else shares with you, or could, and you talk in that language, figuratively speaking. So this sense of just stepping back a bit and thinking, like, am I doing the right thing here? Is my understanding right? There's that ability Gemini has to be self-reflective. This takes us to the 19th degree of Gemini, a large archaic volume in which is written traditional old wisdom. So it's okay to check out what we're feeling ourselves, but when we look at traditional wisdom, written down, approved of, studied much, is a part of our culture, our mythology, to believe in that stuff, then that's a sense of real participation in the community when you understand its cultural background, its norms, and so on. And it's only when really you tune in to the environment, the communal environment in which you place yourself, that you get access to its true abundance. And Gemini 20, the cafeteria, is an image of that. A load of people have been doing a lot of work to get food on your plate, which you don't have to cook for yourself. It's quite a mystery, a cafeteria, really. You just walk in, give your money, and they give you your food. It's this very simple thing, but it's quite a mystery. And it's just commonly available. And this sense of food whenever you want it would have been absurd as an idea to the early men and women on this planet, that you could just have food whenever you wanted it. So this abundance of life is represented by the cafeteria, and a bit of a warning not to overindulge that, because if you can just go and get all the food you want without doing any work for it, then there's a tendency towards overindulgence. And the warning here is participate by all means in everything that's going on up to a point, but be aware that you can overdo it, which is a feature of Gemini. They can overdo it. In the second, or the next expression, the second of this set, we're talking about clearing. Clearing your mind of wrong thought, clearing your emotional body of neuroses and so on. And that clearing process begins with the labor demonstration, where you're just clearing yourself of injustice, and strike, making a strike against that in an unconscious way, an outburst kind of way, like, I don't like this, that kind of approach to the matter. It's an emotional release. And then in Gemini 22, you've got society or civilization saying, look, if you want to get your emotional stuff out, this is how you do it. In a barn dance, Gemini 22, you go and shake your tail feathers and get a little bit drunk and do crazy things when we let you, now and again, once a month or whatever. That's okay. That's how you do that. Gemini 23, the fledglings in the nest. The fledglings are nascent ideas, nascent spiritual knowledge. Something new and important, just being born and not yet strong enough. They need protecting. They're high up in the nest where they can't be found. they're taken care of by their mother and fed. So some of the new ideas, the new realizations that come when we have an emotional clearance, they're very worthwhile, but they're not strong enough. You've got to nurture them. So you've got to be a bit careful about telling everyone what you think and feel at that point. Gemini 24, the children skating on ice. Ice is dangerous. It's inhospitable. But the kids go skating anyway. And this sense of almost reckless adventure is indicated here. Even though the fledgling ideas are not yet safe, they're in danger for a while. Nevertheless, there's this willingness to go out and put yourself at risk in order to have the opportunity for clearing it all out. You know, you go out in the very cold weather and you go ice skating, and it's like, yeah, a real emotional clearing occurs. The man trimming palms in Gemini 25 is another reminder not to overdo it. This guy is just taking the excess growth from a tree just to make it tie in with civilized understandings of beauty. If it went wild, it would be not considered beautiful. So we trim it down. And if these kids go wild where they're skating, that's a bit too far, and they could be in harm's way. So this emotional outburst that started this expression has to be somehow brought back into the fold of civilized okayness, really. So the final expression of Gemini is evaluation. All of these experiences we've had, all of these adventures and new ideas and so on, evaluation. Let's just check them out. And in 26 Gemini, we have the winter frost in the woods. And we see the idea of a naked tree, very beautified by the frost upon it. Hoarfrost, perhaps. Something stunningly beautiful. And not dressed, but essence beauty, essential beauty. And that's what we're coming to in our sense of evaluation. What's the essential beauty of this situation, the essential worth of this situation? We're trying to find how to evaluate that. And in Gemini 27, you have the gypsy coming out of the forest, where the gypsy's a representation of wildness and not conforming to civilization, coming out of the forest, coming into civilization, a sense of contrast to the naked beauty of the forest. We've got civilized behavior coming into play here. And one polarization, one duality that Gemini is constantly monitoring is, to what extent am I involved in wildness and natural beauty? And to what extent am I involved in civilization and society? And they don't decide in favor of one or the other. They're actually quite comfortable with both and constantly weighing them up. And in Gemini 28, you get the kind of sense that there's no preference here. The man declared bankrupt. So what? Success, failure, it's all just experience. And this is a very profound wisdom, that there's no longer a judgment about success being good and failure being bad. This is a very profound spiritual insight, that life just goes on. It goes up, it goes down. We have good times and bad times. It just moves on. And it's irrelevant after a certain period of time. Something that was passionately important at one point becomes absolutely irrelevant later. And again, we're reaffirming in Gemini 29 this sense of newness of every moment. And in a sense, the mockingbird, the first mockingbird in spring, is freshness again. It's spring come back. And we have that feeling, don't we, in springtime, any other season. It's like, oh, wow, yes, I love this. And you've loved it last year and the year before and the year before that, but you love it again as if it were new. And that's generally through and through. Everything is just like, wow, yeah, that's interesting. That's their favorite word. Everything's interesting to a Gemini, and nothing more so than newness. And we get to the very point in Gemini 30 of the evaluation expression with the bathing beauties. So there's an evaluation here of who is the most beautiful of this bunch of people. And at the time, it's obvious that that's the best one, or she's as good, or he's as good as anything can be, you know. But it's only temporary. Our sense of what is beautiful changes with the ages as well. The fashion of beauty changes quite quickly. There's certain essential characteristics of beauty, like the winter frost in winter frost in the forest, but it changes. There's a cultural shift occurring all of the time. So what Gemini's doing in Gemini 30 is just sort of noticing the zeitgeist. What happens to be considered beautiful or wise or important or appropriate right now? Let me just check that out. I'll know what's fashionable right now. And there you have it. Gemini's kind of up to date with the fashions usually. They're trendsetters to some extent by knowing what we consider beauty or whatever other quality. So there we have it. The freshness of Gemini begins the process, and the evaluation of Gemini ends the process. Mercury, mutable, air. That's how you understand Gemini.